For today's 29/7 moment, I wanted to talk a little bit about dads. As you know, this Sunday is Father's Day, and when we think about the role of father, maybe for some of us that's something that's a sore subject, something that we think back on with grief and anxiety and sadness. So we think about maybe for some, including myself, early in my life, I didn't have a dad. Didn't have someone that was challenging me and comforting me and calling me to manhood. It wasn't until much later in my life, in my teen years, when a man came along who provided some of that for me. But it's interesting that study after study after study declares the importance of dads. It's fascinating, actually. There's an article that I just read that talks about how even from conception, of course, we know physically dads are kind of important for that role, but even from conception, the emotional and mental state of the father in that moment actually has an impact on the future of that child. They have linked in their studies the anxiety and emotional distress of the father during the season of conception actually is linked to high blood sugar in a child when they're born. We recognize that this physical is maybe the furthest thing from our minds, but certainly even there has an impact. All kinds of health issues that come out of that, but also the psychological and the emotional challenges that are there when a dad is present or when a dad is absent. Fatherhood is one of those things that we tend to take for granted when we have it. But those of us who've experienced something of a loss in that category, we certainly can point to all kinds of challenges. What the article that I read was calling the father effect. That father effect impacts all of society. The absence of fathers in the lives of their children leads to increased incarceration rates. It leads to all kinds of emotional and trauma in adulthood. And so we recognize the inherent necessity of the dad in the lives of children. And even as adults, we long for older men to speak into our lives, to remind us that we're moving in the right direction, or at times to be that voice that points us back to some kind of sanity, points us away from destructive behavior, helps us think about life in a better way. So for our 29/7 moment, as we think about what it means as God calls Jeremiah and the people of God to understand that we want to seek the welfare of the city to which God calls us, I want to encourage us to champion the role of father, to perhaps be for someone else a father figure. Or if you are a dad, to pause for a moment and not look to Father's Day as an opportunity for you to be honored, but for you to be the father that your children need you to be. For those of us who are Christians, that's especially important, because our reflections of fatherliness help our kids understand or in some ways confuses them on their understanding of our Heavenly Father, the ultimate Father, the Father to whom we bring our children and say, these are yours, Lord. And so we steward their hearts and we steward the direction of their lives. And so we want to recognize that in doing that, we are actually taking them to and pointing them to the ultimate Father. And for those of you who don't have a dad, for those of you who have walked through life without that direction, I know men who are ready and willing to step into that role a little bit, to pour into your life, to encourage you and to be a hopeful confidant, to be a strength when you're feeling weak. This is for men or women. You need a dad. And we especially need to be good spiritual dads. So I encourage you, As you seek the welfare of the city, look around you. Look around you for that look of an orphan, somebody who really needs a father to speak into their life. And if you don't have one, give me a call, send me a message. Let me point someone to you. Maybe it's supposed to be me. Maybe it's supposed to be someone else that I know. But in all of us, there's a longing to have dads. So let's seek shalom by making that happen.